Digital comics are a game changer. Now, don't get me wrong, my physical collection still grows by like a dozen issues every week or so, but something about having access to thousands upon thousands of comics in a small rectangle that fits in my pocket, it just works for me, especially as a busy dad. But my favorite app for reading digital comics right now is Global Comics. Global Comics is basically the home of indie comics. You've got publishers like Dynamite, Dark Horse, Image, and now DC. So if you can go to comicsaredope.com/global, you can actually save on their annual gold pass while supporting the channel. So again, visit comicsaredope.com/global to save. All right, guys, I feel like I say this every week, but this week's episode is very much a special treat. If you guys have been following the channel, then you know that for quite some time, I've been looking forward to the Family Odysseys line being launched at Ghost Machine. I did not know I'd be waiting all year for it, but it just makes me even more excited that we're finally here to celebrate this launch. And joining me today are three guests. Yes, three special guests. It's my favorite band. It's two Pete's and a Francis. So please welcome Peter Snejberg, Peter Tomasi, and Francis Manapul.
Hey, everyone.
Hey.
So guys, we're finally launching the Family Odysseys. And like I said, I've been really excited about this for quite some time. And I don't even know, I do know why. I'm a family man. I've got kids. I'm relatively new to comics. And for me, the most surprising thing about direct market comics is how little of the content is tailored in a way that multiple age groups or age ranges can enjoy it. And so anytime there's a book that I can, read and enjoy myself as an adult, but also, not have to hide from my kids and stuff like that, it's a great day for me.
Great. That's perfect. You're saying exactly what we like to hear.
Nice. Nice. So
yeah, we've been looking for you all year. You're the perfect candidate.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm the target audience, and I guess there are several different target audiences, but like I said, we're here to celebrate the launch of this Family Odysseys line universe. I don't know how we're going to describe this, but there are two titles launching. One actually, as we filmed this, just launched yesterday, and that's the Rocketfellers. That's written by Peter and Francis, with art by Francis. Oh, look at that. Oh, wait. Okay, good. I don't know why I thought I had spotlighted people by accident. Hey, let me not do that. All right. So while I finagle with the page layout, Peter, since you're here on the screen with me, could you tell me a little bit about how the Rocketfellers came together and how you sort of came to the table at Ghost Machine?
Well, Jeff and I go way back, many decades. And I knew Jeff was thinking about doing this for a while, creating a company with a bunch of people who, were at the top of their games, great storytellers and people that we would all be able to get along with. And it worked out great. And he was talking about the different brands, the different lines, and based off of Batman and Robin and Superman and Super Sons, a bunch of the books I've done at DC. We sort of zeroed in on doing a Family Odysseys line, and Family Odysseys line consisting basically of not being a juvenile book, but being, as you mentioned right off the bat, which is a book for all ages. You could be 80 years old, you can be 18 years old, you can be 8 years old, and still enjoy different aspects of the book, which is what's great about comics, when you can have a wide spectrum, or I think they say the four quadrant, when it hits all these different age ranges and genders. So there was just a little concept, just a family going into from the future into the past, and that was it. That was all we had, and I'd always wanted to work with Francis, and the stars aligned, and Francis and I got on the phone. He agreed to be a part of the company, and then we just kind of beat the book into shape and uh, created the characters to populate it and the storyline to the spine of the story to follow these characters through, and that's really kind of how it started out.
Nice. And Francis, of course, you're not a stranger to writing and drawing. You've done it with The Flash, you've done it with other titles. But just how was it coming into this experience on this creator-owned title and helping to really form this world with Pete for the Rocketfellers?
Yeah, I mean, to tell you the truth, this was the main initial draw, because at this point in Ghost Machine, I knew Jeff personally, I knew Peter personally, and I knew Jay a little bit. And the rest of the Ghost Machine crew, I only know them from their work, right? So I've been obviously a long time admirer of their stuff, and I knew what the company was about. But really, it was when Pete and I started talking about what we were going to do, that's what really sold me into being a part of this thing, right? And what's kind of interesting is that, like, once I did, once I met everybody in New York, if I had met them before, Pete and I came up with the Rockefellers, I would have joined right away because I didn't realize we would all get along so well, right? And really, so much of the process is from how the collaborative process works. That's really the main thing that's made this feel really special to me, because like as you said, I wrote in the past with Brian Bucciolato. Then afterwards, I started writing on my own. But it is kind of difficult to be in a silo by yourself for a long time. Part of what makes comics a lot of fun is really the collaboration, right? So getting to work with Pete, who I met back when we were in the Bat Office days. So that's really how we struck up our friendship, and we just stayed in contact. And throughout many years, we only did one book together, and this felt like the perfect time. It was a culmination of both of our experiences colliding at this perfect juncture of our career and this company that was about to be born. It was just the right time, and it was the right people. So.
For sure. So, Pete Snejberg, we got to differentiate between these Petes. Who wants to be Peter?
Peter S.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Peter S., you are doing the art for a series called Hornsby and Halo. And for this one, the concept just is so interesting to me. It's out next week, the 27th of November. And so, well, by the time the audience hears it, it'll be on stands. But basically, heaven and hell are at war. And in this ages old war, they decide okay, let's try to there's no hope for us, but maybe there'll be hope in the future that the next leaders of this whole thing can get along a little bit better. And so they send these children to Earth to be born and raised, or to be raised by people who maybe couldn't have kids on their own, and basically to use the Earth as a sort of training ground for their eventual roles as the leaders of heaven and hell, respectively. When that concept came to you, how did you feel about it?
When Pete presented the idea, I really loved it. I loved it because I like the idea of the kids. The characters was really such a strong. It was just such a strong. The whole idea of these kids coming into puberty, more or less, and at the same time discovering that they have these, it's a great metaphor that they suddenly discover that they have to find a whole new place in the world. And of course there's all the philosophical ramifications and stuff like that, but it was mostly the thing about the kids suddenly waking up one day and discovering that the world is a lot more complicated than they thought it was, and they suddenly have to deal with a lot of stuff they never had to deal with when they were younger. I thought that was a brilliant idea, and I really like drawing kids. It's not something you get to do that often in American comics, but I like I like there's just something about them that's just fun to draw. And so that it just felt it just felt like a really good idea.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but I as a reader, I like seeing kids in comics. Like, and my favorite Robin is Damian Wayne. When I was getting into comics back in 2019, Adventures of the Super Sons was out.
Mm.
And so I was eating that stuff up, like Damian Wayne, Jonathan Kent. Like there's just, I don't know, something about the child character as like your point of view. Um, you get to kind of see the world with a sense of wonder, and a sense of innocence, that I don't know, it just feels fresh. And I don't know, maybe it just keeps us young at heart, but I love seeing kids in books. What would you say, Pete, is um, makes drawing them so fun?
I guess it's just that kids have the spontaneity. It's the body language. They just have the spontaneity. They just have a lot more body language than grown-ups have. I mean, at least as long as you're not drawing, superheroes. Superheroes have a lot of body language, but kids have that. They have that bounciness. They have that. There's just something and it's the same way with them as characters, that they have an openness to experience that fits really well with comics, because it's just about characters going out and having adventures, and that's just a lot easier when it's kids. When it's grown-ups, you have to invent all kinds of reasons why they have to do these things, and kids don't need reasons to do that. That's what they do because they're kids.
For sure.
So
Peter T, Peter J, excuse me. What would you say? Because you've got two very different books here with Rocketfellers and Hornsby and Halo. What would you say has been the most fun part about kind of building each of these worlds?
I think it really just boils down to collaborating with the two distinct knuckleheads that I'm working with.
that's awesome.
Francis and Peter S are they each bring their own distinctive voices, their distinctive views and angles on the material, and that collaboration just enriches everything, and it's just like, I forgot who said it earlier, but it's so much more fun to be working in a real atmosphere of give and take, and of just being able to bounce stuff off each other and not be isolated. A writer's life, when you're writing by yourself and you're not collaborating as much, be it screenwriting or comic books, there's an isolation aspect of writing, as it is for artists also. But you live in your head all the time, so it's nice when you can kind of just keep that that open door in your head and just have somebody else walking through it while you're figuring stuff out, and just it's actually just more fun in the end. So yeah, just both books have distinct viewpoints, obviously, but it's really the people I'm working with that make it the best, make it really fun.
Awesome. So Francis, you're working on the Rocketfellers and you get to draw this whole family from like basically ages like 8 to 80. There's even the family dog. But the first time I saw any of your work, well, not the first time I saw it. I'd experienced your work because you had a run of variant covers for the Damian Wayne Robin series that had been out for a little while. And so I was picking those up. But then I don't know how I stumbled on your YouTube channel, but this was like during the time when Clear was coming out. And for those who aren't familiar, Clear was from a Comixology original, and it's written by Scott Snyder, and Francis does the art. But that book just feels like an excuse for Francis to draw like as many things in as many distinct styles and just play as much as possible. And it is just a treat to read. But you had a vlog and you were like kind of going through your process, like finishing up pages. And there's like a real like Casey Neistat aspect to your vlog. And I don't know, something about like watching those webisodes, if you will. I was like, oh, this guy, we could vibe. Like, I like this guy. But you've obviously got a real sense for art, for visuals, for storytelling. What is it about you that feels like I've got to just level up story, no matter what form it takes? If I'm in video, it can't just be a talking head. Like there's got to be something interesting going on. Like where's that come from?
Yeah. Thank you so much, by the way, Casey Neistat. He's incredible. It's funny because like I fell into a rabbit hole when I was effectively during the pandemic. I was trying to relearn how to use a camera because I felt like I needed a hobby,
Mm.
right? Because at that time, prior to that, I was writing, penciling, inking, and coloring Trinity, and I felt comics out, right? So I picked up a camera again to try to have a different outlet for creativity. And the long and short of it is that I burnt myself out doing everything. So my next project, I started working on it with Scott exclusively as an artist, right? And what was interesting was during my time on that, I found that the the bug to write was kind of still there,
Mm.
and it was when I realized that because I would initially it was just about photography, and then I realized, oh, I could take videos. So I would take videos of my kids and my family, and they just sit on your hard drive doing nothing, right? So I would edit them together into these family videos, and I would send them to my family, and I really enjoyed it, except the schedule of an artist kind of takes up a lot of time. So eventually, I'm like, well, I would get to the point where I just want to like touch the camera. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe if I focus this on to coincide with the work that I'm doing, it'll give me an excuse to play around with it, right? And then as you said, as I started editing the footage, I don't know, I couldn't just slap it together in chronological order. My brain, the writing brain, started weaving into how those videos were formulated. So really, a lot of the things that I was applying to my videos is exactly what I learned through telling stories through comics, right? So it kind of all comes back to that, right? And lately I haven't been as productive in the video side of things because Peter and I are pretty knee deep in the production of the Rockefellers. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it is really just I guess an interest in telling a story and tinkering. I like to tinker, and I like to turn rocks over to see what's underneath it, right? And that's really where it comes from, right? And as Pete will tell you, I'm constantly telling him about YouTube and stuff like that, and how it really is a great medium to be able to tell stories. It reminds me a lot of when I first discovered comics and realized I could tell stories through that, right? And it's one of those things where back then people would buy comic books and say, wow, I can do that, therefore I want to do it. And I think YouTube is kind of filling in that gap these days for people seeing a story or a creative output that they want to try to replicate.
Yeah, for sure. I like the varied styles that you get on YouTube, right? Like there's a lot of complaints about like how big studios aren't funding like rom-coms or what have you anymore. It's all like big budget action, like blockbuster films. So on YouTube, it's kind of like where you can get everything from like me just saying what comics are coming out next week to like really cool like indie films, vlogs like yours, documentaries. There's a lot of really cool stuff on YouTube, and I like that there is that variation there. Um, and I
Well,
like that it's
that's what makes comics great too, because in a weird way, comics used to do that all the time.
Yeah.
From superheroes to action to romance to horror to western
Mhm.
to just war, detective stories, children's stories. Then you had comic strips on newspapers. So was just a great mass of genres that were always available. And then superheroes kind of crowded it out for quite a bit, quite a long time. And then it kind of has recycled, circulated again, and we have more genres again, and that's what's great about Ghost Machine, because it's like, it's almost like, looking at Marvel when it first started. I mean, here we have a guy from the Revolutionary War. We've got a Geiger, a radioactive man in the desert. We've got family from the future trying to hide in the present. We've got two kids, an angel and a demon. So, it's all these different things. You got Rook, which is this whole world thing, and Devour. Um, so many different genres, all in this one company, and a small company at that. And we're putting out all these different genres, and it's really interesting and a great time to be, I think, to be a Ghost Machine reader, to come on, to be right here at the opening salvo of this stuff, because it's like that Marvel time where it was like an Iron Man, a Spider Man, a Norse god, a guy on a motorcycle with a flaming skull. I mean, all these different genres are available, and Ghost Machine is I think really giving them to readers with an incredibly high level of quality.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we've done pretty well is open the doors in our process, right? Because I think, what happens, I feel these days is that, one of the things that I loved about comics, as Pete said, the variety in stories, right? And what got me even more excited was whenever I got a peek at how it's made, right? I think that kind of stuff always excites people. The whether it's the illusion or the possibility that this is something that you can do, I think whenever the process is shared, it's something that excites people, right? And I think that's why, social media has become such a big thing, because anybody can do it, right? And I think getting people to understand that, look, I don't want to say anybody can do a comic book, but anybody can make a comic book. Whether it becomes a living or not, it's a whole other thing, just like social media. But I think what's kind of really important is showcasing the medium, right? And I think that's what's really been at the forefront. I think that the stories that we tell kind of speak for themselves, and then with the additive nature of revealing the things behind the process, the people who are part of it, I think that's formed a really great identity for our company, because a lot of the people who are coming into our books, they have prior knowledge of all the creators that are here, right? So as we say, creators that and then characters that you'll love, right? So that's kind of I believe a good entry point for our company and our books.
For sure. And we've talked about comics being collaborative. And one thing that strikes me about Ghost Machine is just how close knit everyone seems. And I don't know, it's kind of uncanny, because you guys are all spread out, like literally different countries, all parts of the world. And to my knowledge, the only time you all really get together is this New York Comic-Con summit. But it feels like, to anyone that sees you guys working together, like you guys just hang out all the time. What is it about Ghost Machine that makes you all love to be there so much? Peter S., how's it been for you?
Yeah, well, I'm maybe, I don't know, maybe the one who's most isolated. I guess this, anyway, I mean, obviously it's a long distance job, but we have our social media group and stuff like that people are pretty active in, because as Pete said, it's kind of a lonely job, so it's nice to have a chat room that you can chat with the other guys when you're working. But I think it's also because we share an attitude towards the work. I mean, we're all like really dedicated storytellers. Like we're in this we're all in this because we really want to produce the best told comics that we can. I mean, we share a certain work ethic and a certain enthusiasm for the medium, and that we share with a lot of other people, of course. But I think it's just a great. It's great to have a group of people that you come together with, even if it's just virtually, because you have this shared interest in making this the best we can. That I think that's really a really, really important part of it.
True. So when Ghost Machine started, I felt like maybe the easiest way to describe it was like a sort of new age Image. But one key difference between you guys and Image is Image was kind of always a holding company with a bunch of siloed parts, and they might interact. But for the most part, Extreme Studios, Extreme Studios, and Wildstorm was Wildstorm, and so on. But with Ghost Machine, you all own Ghost Machine. You all own everything, and it's each book is all of yours, and so you all have a vested interest in the quality of the product. And I think that perhaps adds to this whole collaborative nature and feel. But how is it with so many varying personalities and ideas? Like, how has it been sort of getting to see what Jeff's doing or what Lamont's doing, and how does it inform the work that each of you are doing?
Yeah, no, Peter, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it brings a, I wouldn't say, I mean, I don't want to say that it brings a sense of competition, but I would rather say it brings the sense that nobody wants to be the guy who lets the other guys down. We all want to make sure that we keep maintaining the level of quality. And the first guys, when they started with Geiger and that stuff, I mean, they set a very, very high bar. And we're just all trying to really live up to that promise that we're going to give the readers the best we can do. And we hope they will trust us with the money to just keep delivering the best content that we can, so we can keep doing this for ever and ever and ever.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of anxiety over making sure everybody's pulling their own weight. There's always this feeling. It's like, oh man, am I not living up to the thing? And I think what makes it really different from Image back then is that, with all the studios at Image, when they first launched, the best way to describe it is that each one was their own kingdom, right? Wildstorm was its own kingdom. Extreme was its own kingdom. TMP was its own kingdom. But in this case, we have one kingdom and we're all running it together. I think that's the main difference, right? So it's kind of it really behooves us to work together cohesively in order to make this kingdom run in a perfectly oiled manner, right? And I think that's where, as Peter has said, there's this. It's not a sense of competition, but more so a sense of not letting the other guy down, right? It feels like we're all running in a what do you call it? Like a four-legged sack race, I guess, right? And you don't want to be the person that's falling down. So when the other person hops, you got to make sure to hop in line as they are, right? So there's a lot of that, right? So and as you said, because we own everything together, really. It's hard to be jealous of another person's success when you realize their success is your success, right? I think that's one other thing that really changes things. It's much more of a team effort, right? Like at the end of a let's say a playoff run and you win that championship ring, it doesn't matter how many points you got, we're all getting rings, right? Whether you sat on the bench or you played 30 minutes, you're getting a ring, right? And I think that's been a very illuminating part for all of us in that every win that we each have individually is a collective win for everyone.
Right. And it's just even even the people, the talent, in the front lines, but behind us, there's like a whole machine also too. That's, from marketing and publicity and just, logistics and editing and all this great stuff. It's, and then the movie TV side, the people in the development in those areas, there's a lot of great people with really great skills, all behind us too, and we're all everybody's just like Francis said and Peter said, we're all pulling it for each other because it's all hands on deck because it's our ship. Everybody owns a piece of the ship.
For sure. And so this very much feels like the Family Odysseys is kind of they're grabbing the baton for year 2 of Ghost Machine, though there's plenty of other stuff coming. But this feels like kind of like all right, if you didn't get on Ghost Machine before, jump in here, and then there'll be other stuff to check out as well. Do you feel like a certain sense of pressure? Like, what's the goal for Family Odysseys as this whole experiment continues to come together?
Yeah, I think the pressure's definitely there. Sorry, go ahead, Pete.
No, I don't know if I don't know if I don't feel any pressure really. I think on myself, I just want to make sure, like we said before, that the books are up to snuff. The books are great, and people will find them, read them. Retailers will push them because they're high quality, and they offer great entry points into new characters and new stories at an early stage. So yeah, I mean, um, it's a it's in a weird way. I kind of haven't looked at it as a second wave. It's sort of been a very just the certain books were ready, other books were not, and just timing was everything, and we just wanted to make sure that there was a nice continuity, I guess is the best way to put it, of 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 newness coming out at certain points of the first year. And now that we're wrapping it up, I can't believe this year's already over. We've all launched really strong. Hornsby and Halo's out next week, and we're hoping for a sellout on that too. But it's like not a sellout for numbers, for money. It's like Pete and I working on the book, and after now Francis, we had our sellout. It's like we want people to see this book that we're all putting so much hard work into and so much passion into, and because we know they're going to love it. And yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, and I think strategically too, I think by spreading out the launches, it doesn't put too much pressure on the retailers when we initially launched, right? It doesn't cannibalize on each other's numbers. And I think now that we're about a year in, it allows also the retailers to understand the quality of the books and how they've been connecting with the readers, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, to tell you the truth, with regards to pressure, really, the only time, most of the time, once you're doing the work, you're not really thinking about pressure. You're not thinking about anything external. You're kind of just thinking about the work. It's actually times like this where we sit around and we pontificate on the work that we've been doing. Then we feel the pressure, right?
Right.
Thanks a lot, man.
No problem.
But yeah, no. The thing is, as we mentioned before, this whole collaboration has been so much fun, right? It's every day we get to tell the stories that we want to tell, and really, when you enjoy something, the hope is that the success is kind of a byproduct of your process, right? It's hard to really manufacture an enjoyment backwards as you're only thinking about the end goal and the success of the product or the story or the book, right? You kind of have to enjoy yourself along the way because that's what you do every day, right? You don't live in the successes. You live in the everyday of sitting right here working on the books and telling the stories, right?
Right.
So.
But speaking of what the goals are, I would say that right now I think what we're all looking forward to is the point where we get to when we have a couple of years runs of these books, so that these characters, when we start, we have the whole mythology. It becomes the world unfolds, and we can start telling more complex stories. Because right now we're just building the groundwork for these universes as they blossom up. So that's really what really it's about right now. Is like laying that groundwork.
Nice. Yeah. And speaking of groundwork, right? Like all of these stories have to start with issue 1, right? And so we're looking right here at Hornsby and Halo #1, which is out Wednesday the 27th, and it's written by Peter, with art by Peter. No, but we've got a few preview pages up on the Image Comics website, so I'm not spoiling anything that's not already out there. But
Yeah.
I really just wanted to sort of soak this in and really give Peter his flowers for this art because it is just really cool. I love this. I don't know. For me, when I see this page, it very much reminds me of the Hercules animated film.
That's good.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I love that. Like the child that doesn't know their own strength is always fun. And we see these two kids like basically living in worlds that could not be more different from each other, coming from very different backgrounds and experiences. And then later on, they are basically right here in the same spot. Um, and Peter, as you were talking about like loving drawing kids because kids are so expressive, like this right here, just the tongue out, uh, is something like I just love seeing that. Like just the I'm gonna try really hard. Like I'm drawing this picture, I'm really focused, and it's like, whereas an adult sitting at an artboard,
Mm.
like they're gonna try their best to look cool. Like, all right, got this done, right? But kids, like, they're not afraid to show you that they're trying, or how they're feeling.
Right.
Um,
And even if you look at that small little scene on the bus, there's not a lot, you can't see a lot of them, but I mean, each of those kids and those, they're all distinct. Each one has a different face. Each one
right.
has a different personality. You look at that kid on the back, like in the last panel, right
Mhm.
away, you almost know exactly who that kid is just by the way he's squinting and looking. And, it's great. And, when you juxtapose those pages with the heaven and hell stuff. Look at the range of between those opening pages with the babies, and then you get to the stuff in the present day. I mean, it's amazing. The book's just beautifully drawn, and look at the coloring. The coloring by John
Oh,
Kalis
let's not forget. Yeah.
is wonderful, and the lettering with Rob Lee is great. So yeah, look, being objective, and for 3.99 and 32 pages of just this beautiful stuff, man, it's a hell of a deal. A hell of a deal.
Oh, it absolutely is. And Ghost Machine, we've already, gotten a bit of a look at just what the quality is, right? Like when you see these books, like they've got the cardstock covers, like they really just feel good. Like they're printed on high quality paper. It that very much feels premium. What I'm looking forward to are more of these collected editions. Like I'm hoping that every book gets one of those super oversized books like Geiger did.
Um,
Oh,
Because
we're all looking forward to that.
oh yeah, well, that's the plan. I mean, I know Junkyard Joe, I think, is coming out this month, maybe next week, or maybe, yeah, I think it is next week. The deluxe edition, just like the Geiger one, and obviously we're all looking forward to the Rocketfellers and Hornsby and Halos deluxe edition. So yeah, we all love that stuff on the shelves. All comic people love, even comic readers. We all get crazy about our spines up on the shelf.
mhm,
Yeah.
So,
yes. And so yeah, so speaking of Rocketfellers, right? Rocketfellers #1 came out this week, and I gotta say, it blew away my expectations, right? Like I just saw the creative team and I was like, okay, cool, I'm down. Like whatever they're doing, I'm gonna buy it. But then you open up this book, and I should probably have pulled it up. Let's do that. But you open up this book, and Francis, your art is just, it's great. Like, and I mean, every superlative I can list for Peter is it's the same. Um, Obviously your styles,
It's an amazing looking book. It's
right?
it's it's an amazing looking book.
and you know what? It's even more amazing in person because we didn't get our comps yet. I went to the store yesterday to actually see the book for the first time, to be able to actually hold it in my hands. And I was really blown away. I mean, it is a great looking book. The paper and like you said, the cardstock brand, and I mean, just I've seen it obviously on the other Ghost Machine books, but now to just see this stuff, it just wow. I mean, it really felt great. It's a real high quality piece of art, really. I mean, it's not a product. It's just a real great piece. When I came home, my wife saw it because she never reads any of my comics in 30 years. She picked it up, and all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, let me see this." And she started looking through it, and she's like, "Oh my God, you got to tell Francis how much I love this stuff." So,
Hilarious
it's
that thing. Yeah.
no, it's great. Like just the texture, um, the tones. Like I even like this thing that you. I don't. I'm terrible at describing art, right? But you can see the line work, but all the lines aren't black. And so it's like it gives like sort of contours and I don't know, just it just feels good, like looking at it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's just a way to soften the line work. I'm a fan of animation, and sometimes when you see the outline on Bugs Bunny, it's not black, right? It's like a darker gray of
Mm,
the skin color, right? And I just feel that adding a little bit of that creates a softer feel, And
mhm.
then a lot of the textures that you're seeing in the background is I actually took a piece of paper and I used to ink wash my work, but since then I've stopped doing it because it's a little bit cumbersome to color. So what I did was I created some textures separately and then I would lay it underneath in the background, right? Because like I was looking at things like the way 101 Dalmatians looked, that original Disney cartoon. So a lot of the influences are really coming from the older Disney visuals, right? And kind of just trying to do it in an updated comic book way, I guess. Because I mean, since I'm coloring, I may as well take advantage of the fact that I get to touch the artwork post inks, right?
Right.
So
And I talked about like some of your earlier work just being an excuse for you to just go crazy on art, but this page right here, like the spaceship with the Rocketfellers title, there worked into the art. And if you guys look closely, like there's a point in this book where the dog is flying the spaceship, and it's just like the wackiest things happening in this book. But like, where in the world did this spaceship design come from? Like, how do you design this vehicle?
Pete, you want to answer how I designed this vehicle?
And he looks at the blank page and just draws it.
Yeah, no, I've been asked this question many times before, and unfortunately, I don't have a good answer in that, I didn't sit there and design the stuff. I kind of just drew it on the page.
Mm,
The well-crafted answer is that I like to design on the page so that way I can see what it looks like in motion, right?
mm,
Because sometimes you could draw something on a piece of paper and do a turnaround, but once you're playing with that design in an actual sequence, suddenly the designs don't work, right? So a lot of it was really coming from shape and motion. Like the main thing with the ship was really just the shape and the motion. That's all I was trying to capture.
mm,
The other details kind of was negligible. The rest of it was primarily shape and movement. And then with the suits for the family, it really just came from color design, right?
mm,
Their ship and the family, they're very warm colors. They're in the warmer family of colors. And because I knew that the environment that they were going to be in was going to be cold and blue. And that also dictated the colors of the villain, right? Which is in
mm,
complete contrast to the characters. And a lot of it was I don't know if this is true or not, or whether it's an anecdote or whether it's factual. But somebody once said that, they're like, do you know why the Hulk is green, right? And they were saying that because it was going to be in a desert environment, everything was primarily going to be orange, and green is complementary to that color, right? So
mm,
that's always stuck in my head. So since I knew that the origins of the family was going to be first portrayed as they're running through an ice field, everything just kind of went towards a warmer color. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's the warmer something is with regards to the color spectrum, it makes it much more inviting, right?
mm,
So the idea is for the reader to feel a subconscious uh, sympathy and connection with the characters right away through color and design, right? So that's the smart answer, is that's why I didn't design this stuff.
mm.
But yeah, I as Pete said, I kind of just came up with it on the page.
Got you. Now, Peter S., I know you've got to go. But before you do, Hornsby and Halo is out November 27th. Cover price is just $3.99. Um, for anybody who's still on the fence, why should they go out and buy this?
They they should go out buy it because then we can make many more of them.
That's a good reason.
No, they should buy it because it's a really fun, entertaining book. It has adventure, it has humor, it has drama, it has, it's just a good old-fashioned comic book with a lot of stuff happening and characters that are going to engage you. And I hope people will really enjoy it as much as we've enjoyed making it.
For sure. I love the sort of interplay that comes with this, like just opposites, right? Like, and even, I don't know, I don't want to spoil anything. The book hasn't come out yet, but even like the way these kids grow up might be opposite from how you think. Like, who's nurtured well, who's, feels abandoned, like who is angry, I really love the interplay in this character work. So I'm super, super excited to get this book in my hands as well. But Peter, I just want to say thank you for your time before you got to jump off.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. It's been great. Thanks for having us, and enjoy the rest of your day or evening or whatever it is over there. The rest of your day, I guess.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You do the same.
Okay. Bye-bye.
See you, Pete.
Yeah, see you, Pete. Hi, Francis.
So for the audience, because I just realized I never really pitched the Rocketfellers. And what we have in this series is this is a family book. I think the way I tried to distill it for the pull list was like, it's kind of like Fantastic Four meets The Incredibles, and probably with a little bit of the Jetsons mixed in there. Like, I love that there are all these different characters at all these different age ranges, from like your grandmother to your kids. And, I feel like everybody that reads this book is going to pick their favorite Rockefeller pretty early on. And then you get flung into this action. And okay, by the time you guys see this, it's been a week. So I'm gonna spoil just a tad, right? This family from the future gets dropped into the present. And I don't mean like the present, like, oh yeah, like some kind of modern time. I mean, like they get dropped like right now. And, at least from issue 1, the way it seems is as though like every issue is going to take place in real time, like November 2024, right? Like, how did you guys come up with that as a concept?
Well, seeing when the books were coming out, November and especially Christmas, we were coming out in those back 2 months of the year. We were really keen on, like comics used to do a lot of back, when I was growing up, especially, they really tried to time the seasons for the books. And there's something to be said about doing that. It kind of keeps it in the zeitgeist of people reading it. The readers really kind of, I think they make subtle connections of that, because then suddenly they're experiencing the same outward atmosphere, surroundings, time of year, or even holidays. Even if it's Christmas, obviously there's no snow in Florida, but it's still Christmas. So, I think that seasonal stuff has a nice vibe to it for readers when they're going through it. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think people will enjoy it, and even in a back way, in the back of their heads, subconsciously, excuse me, if they're not even thinking about that at the moment, suddenly they'd be like, oh, and that kind of thing. Those kind of seasonal stories also give you stories, because like we were able to say, okay, it's a Christmas story. How do we do something really cool and weird and strange? And we do something really cool, weird, and strange, and and there's nothing to say that we can't do that through the rest of the year, be it Valentine's Day, be it, whatever else comes up through the course of the year. So there's little holidays. There's enough Hallmark holidays that that books can definitely relate to if they want to, or if we want to.
Yeah, I mean, this is where that year-long wait that you had to endure gets to rear its advantages, right? Because knowing that we were going to be launching in November, and with it being a family book, it makes a lot of sense for it to center around, American Thanksgiving, right? That's a very big family thing in the US. I'm Canadian. We have our Thanksgiving in October, but I don't think a Thanksgiving book in October would fly well over there. So we were able to really formulate stories around that, right? Because and I think in in a very relatable way, I think as people are experiencing those seasons, we're able to um, expand on that experience, right? So, like, imagine as you're experiencing Christmas, imagine if your neighbor was the Rockefellers. You want to know what they're doing? Well, you want to know what your weird neighbor is doing who you never see? This is
Right.
what they're doing. You know what I mean? They're just trying to get a Christmas tree, right? And so much of it is that, right? There's a experiential element to it that feels very familiar and yet um, skewed or exaggerated by their future. I don't want to say rituals, but the things that they're accustomed to in the future that we just don't have, right?
Yeah.
So we're able to create an immediate connection with the reader because they're immediately seeing the contrast between what's going on with them at the moment and then what this family is going through and how they deal with it in a very different way. So they're able to immediately latch on to the whole concept of fish out of water or man out of time idea, right?
Yeah.
It's
And
kind of meta, I guess.
for sure. And the Rockefellers, like, I don't know, for as much as it's like I'm excited because it's like it's a book featuring a family, right? Like you get all the feels that you feel in your family. It's not all like, oh, hey, we're big, happy, we're together, we're excited. Like there's tragedy, there's heartbreak, like there's a lot that happens even just in that first issue. But with you guys kind of at least doing this seasonal thing for now, however long that goes, right? Like there's that impetus, like, because I'm notorious for falling behind in the pull list. Like, you guys watch me every week, and it's like, yeah, I was reading this 3 months ago and I liked it, but then I got all these other books and now I don't know, but I'll keep buying it, right? Like, this gives you another reason to keep this book at the top of your pile because it's like, I don't want to read the Christmas issue in July.
Yeah,
I didn't think of
yeah,
that. That's good.
yeah, and I think it creates like an excitement, right? Because once you get to know the character, to look forward to Halloween, right? Like,
Hmm.
what are they going to do in Halloween? What are they going to do next Thanksgiving and next Christmas, right? I think it creates a sense of anticipation. And the thing is that we can't really get that. We have to earn that. We have to earn that through the readers going through the journey with the characters. And once we do, I think that's when it becomes even more fun, right? I think it's the kind of book that will hopefully keep feeling like it's much more rewarding the longer you stay. And I think those pivotal holidays make a big deal. And selfishly in the back of my head, I think I was telling people, how cool would it be if we did like a Rockefeller Christmas collection, where it's just the holidays or something like that. I think that could be really fun. That could be a really fun different thing. It's kind of like a Simpsons House of Horrors, right? Everybody
Right.
loves just binge watching those, right? So yeah, that's but yeah, I never thought about reading it every month because of that. Now we're gonna use that as a feature. Thanks,
Right.
dude.
Yeah, no problem. What I love about like even just all these ideas you guys have is that there's no one to tell you no. You get to
Yeah,
do whatever you want. I think that's what's so amazing about Ghost Machine, and it has to be gratifying, right? Like after all of these years building up different universes, working with other people's toys, like to be able to do this with this level of control, and while knowing how to do it. So many people that kind of start their own companies, they start out starting their own companies, but you guys have been around the block a couple times, and it's like, nah, we get to do this right.
Yeah, it's you really hit it. Yeah, you really hit it on the head. It's as much as we all loved working for our respective companies. I mean, I spent 30 years at DC basically. So I did a lot of work there, editing and writing, and loved every second of it. But yeah, this is just different. This is now to be able to just be on the ground floor of something like this and with collaborators you're really keyed into and just and like you said, there's there's nobody to say no. That's a real that's a really cool thing to, obviously we gauge ourselves and things like that, but yeah, to be able to just not have some silly business thing play into a story, or some even a personal thing on an editorial side that, you know, no, nobody's gonna, we've joked about this other spots, like nobody's gonna tell us that, the Rockefellers, well, they wouldn't do that, or Roland wouldn't say that,
Right.
Oh, really? Why? Why is that? Why do you know these characters better than we do? So
Yeah.
it's it gets kind of funny sometimes where you deal with things like that. So
Yeah.
I mean, I remember
Yeah.
even Batman, I was a competitor of Batman, and then when I was writing Batman, I had an editor say, well, Batman wouldn't say that, and I was like, I was the group editor, you remember? So yeah, it's pretty funny. It's a really the power of the power of no.
Yeah. What Pete mentioned earlier as well is that even though we've been around the comic book block a few times, I think it's really important to also like give the crew behind the scenes like a lot of love. I think they've worked so hard in making this as smooth of a transition for us as possible, because at the end of the day, our main focus is the creative aspect, but obviously the business side of things, the structure needs to be in place, right? So everybody behind the scenes, has worked really hard to make sure that and ensure that we're able to do what we do to the highest of our capabilities, right? And what's interesting is that I was thinking about this the other day, Pete. I was talking to somebody from the big two, and we were just we're just catching up, and I was kind of just thinking about how, oh man, I love that character. I would love to work on that. And then I started thinking, okay, well, the structures of those are so different, right? Because like one of the things that we do have here in the company is the level of involvement that we have is so expansive that it's hard to think about going backwards and just doing just that, right? Because within this company, it's very easy to call Mike or Corey or Rebecca or Kat or Danny and and talk about marketing material or publishing ideas, right? It's hard to put that genie back in the bottle, right? Because now that we know that the reach of what we could do with our work is so much more expansive than before, because at the big two, you do the work, you send it off, and then off to the ether it goes, right? It goes
Right.
into this void. But here, just again, just the level of involvement that we get to have, I don't know how you take that away.
Yeah.
It's like if you've ever driven a manual car and then you go back to automatic, as easy as it is to go into autopilot or auto drive or cruise control, that level of control that you have when you're driving a stick and you hear that rumble because you're about to stall or whatever, right? It's strange that feeling of involvement feels so natural, right? It's like taking your shoes off and walking on the dirt and feeling that ground and feeling connected. It's hard. Yeah, it's just hard to roll it back. It's hard to roll it back
Absolutely.
once you have that access.
Yeah.
It's just pure freedom.
Yeah. No, and that is amazing. I'm really happy for you guys that you get to experience that. I'm loving the work that you've put out so far. There's no indication that I won't love what you continue to put out. So I'm down. I'm excited to be here from day one. And before I let you guys go, I just want to just kind of give you your flowers. Like I really do appreciate the work that you do. Peter, you are part of the reason that I have this Wednesday habit. Like when I was getting into comics, you were writing Detective Comics, and I came in on like the last 10 issues of the Batman run that was going on at the time, and it was like it just didn't always vibe for me. But I could always count on Detective Comics coming out the next week and just being amazing. And they were short stories. They were, fairly quick story arcs. But that Mr. Freeze story, with
Right.
Nora, like, getting cured and everything that came from that, I was just like, man, this is amazing. So thank
I
you.
appreciate that. Thank you. A lot of hard work went into that story, and beautiful art by the great Doug Mahnke too. So,
Mhm.
yep.
Yeah, no, that time period was special. And I guess it's always going to be special for me because some of the first comics I read, but it was just really cool. Like going to the store on my lunch break at this super boring dead end job I was working and having that to look forward to. So,
Okay. Hey, that's the one thing we love about, doing this is, we see it at conventions, we hear it from guys like you, and it makes our day, makes my day to hear that. When I know I gave somebody that just 15 minutes of joy and whatever that day is
mm,
that's priceless. Trust me. It's not a lot of people get to have that ability and do that and be able to give that, and I don't take it for granted. So thank you.
no problem at all. Well, you guys, the Rocketfellers #1 has already been out for a week. Hornsby and Halo is out as of yesterday. So go to your local comic shop. Pray to God that they still have copies on the shelves because this is going to be a sellout. And if you do miss out, final order cutoff for the second printing would be like this weekend as I'm talking to you. So order it so that you can read these stories and experience the joy that I have for these. Peter, Francis, thank you so much for your time. You guys are welcome back anytime.
Dude, our
And
our pleasure. Yeah. Oh,
Thank
also,
you.
since I shouted out a lot of the behind the scenes guys, also shout out to Brian and Jamie and Sophie. So, like I said, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that make this work.
for
Thank you.
sure. Speaking of, huge thanks to Kat for bringing this all together,
Yeah.
and aligning these schedules and things. There's definitely a huge team at Ghost Machine, and every joint supplies. Everybody is important to the mission. So thank you all for being here, and thank you guys for
Thank
listening.
you, Brandon. Thank you. And
Yeah.
hey,
Thank you very much.
have a great Thanksgiving and a great holiday.
Thank you. You guys do the
Oh,
same.
that's right. You guys are about to have your Thanksgiving.
It's okay. You can have your one moment of Canadian pride. Um,
Well, appreciate that.
no
Thank
problem.
you.
So for you guys listening, again, go out and grab these books. I don't know what you're doing after you listen to this, but hopefully you stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.
Comics are dope.